Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, February 8th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mokyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea reported a whopping drop in the number of COVID-19 cases Monday, with the figure falling below 300 for the first time in more than 2 months. Meanwhile, beginning today, people in South Korea, except for those in the capital area, are able to dine in cafes and restaurants until 10 p.m. Scientists from the WHO looking for clues about the origin of the novel coronavirus in the central Chinese city of Wuhan say they have found some meaningful evidence at the Huanan seafood market. And in India, a tsunami-like flood swept downstream, causing a glacier to break off, triggering an enormous avalanche. The catastrophe has resulted in some 150 people either missing or dead. We begin with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The country reported 289 new cases Monday, dropping below the 300 mark for the first time in more than 2 months. Authorities say they are likely to adjust the current social distancing level after the Lunar New Year holidays. Of the new cases Monday, 264 were locally transmitted and 25 were from overseas. There were 3 more deaths, bringing the death toll to 1,474. South Korea's total number of cases has now surpassed the 81,000 mark. The South Korean government plans to strengthen quarantine measures on those arriving from abroad. This comes as COVID-19 variants are spreading fast and seemingly becoming dominant overseas. Health authorities are to conduct COVID-19 tests on close contacts of confirmed patients arriving from the UK, South Africa, and Brazil. The country has reported 51 cases of COVID-19 imported from 18 countries so far. Meanwhile, starting from Monday, people in South Korea, except for those in the capital area, are able to dine in cafes and restaurants until 10 p.m. Indoor facilities, including singing rooms and gyms, will be able to operate until 10 p.m. as well. Seoul and the surrounding region will maintain current measures, with such facilities only allowed to operate until 9 p.m. The first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine co-developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University have arrived in the EU after a deepening row over the prolonged delay. 5 countries, including France, Italy, and Germany, received their first consignment over the weekend. French authorities say they received some 273,000 doses and have begun inoculating health professionals. Italy got some 249,000 doses, less than expected. Many EU countries are restricting AstraZeneca's vaccine to under 65s only, despite guidance from the European Medicines Agency that it could be given safely to adults of all ages. The WHO-led investigation team looking into the origin of COVID-19 in the Chinese city of Wuhan have uncovered fresh, important clues. The team expects to present a summary of their findings prior to leaving the city in a couple of days. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Scientists from the WHO looking for clues about the origin of the novel coronavirus in the central Chinese city of Wuhan, the original epicenter of the outbreak, say they have found meaningful evidence at the Huanan seafood market.
The Huanan seafood market has been a particularly important site to look into. So we've traced back sample custody into the labs that then produce sequences, and we've looked at different sequences and tried to trace back to where those samples came from, which patients, etc. And it's been really quite informative, quite interesting, and no big issues in getting access, getting information, and sitting with our colleagues.
Speaking to the AP, the expert added the team has concluded site visits and will spend the next few days going through the data. The scientists also underscored that the probe could be a turning point in pandemic mitigation, explaining that the team has collected an extensive amount of data.
We're tracing back from the first cases and following what happened coming out of that Huanan seafood market, which labs were involved in the investigation. So it took us to Wuhan Institute of Virology. But when we sat down with the staff for our Q&A, it was a wide-ranging question-answer session, let me say that. I mean, it was extremely frank.
Chinese scientists, however, insist there is no evidence that COVID-19 originated from the seafood market. They claim the market was the site of a super spreader event where the outbreak was amplified. The WHO-led investigation team will be consulting with Chinese authorities to release the main findings before their departure on Wednesday. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden expects there to be extreme competition with China amid escalating tensions between the two superpowers. Biden also says his administration will handle conflict with Beijing differently to how his predecessor did. Our Choi Min-jung has more details.
With U.S.-China relations at one of its lowest points, U.S. President Joe Biden said there will be extreme competition between the two superpowers. Speaking in a CBS interview aired Sunday, Biden said China should expect intense competition, yet he acknowledged that the new relationship need not have a conflict. Adding that his administration is going to focus on, quote, international rules of the road, Biden also firmly mentioned that he will not deal with the Chinese president the way former President Donald Trump did. The U.S. president also offered Xi some compliments, calling him bright and tough, but he pointed out that the Chinese leader does not have, quote, a democratic small d bone in his body. Biden's comments on China come after he named the country as the U.S. most serious competitor during last week's foreign policy speech. The president vowed to confront Beijing on diverse issues dealing with economic policy, human rights, intellectual property, and global governance, and added that the U.S. will be ready to work with China. However, Biden has not yet had a call with the Chinese leader since he took office in January, though he did note that there was no particular reason for it. Tensions between China and the U.S. have been escalating since the Trump administration, with ongoing conflict on regional security, trade, human rights, and technology. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Over in the Himalayan mountains of northern India, a tsunami-like flood swept downstream as a glacier broke off, triggering an enormous avalanche. The catastrophe has resulted in some 150 people either missing or dead. A massive search and rescue operation is underway. Our Choi Jung-yoon has more.
A glacier in the Himalayas collapses and causes a torrent of water and debris. Gushing towards a dam, the water slams into two hydropower projects, washing away whatever is in its path. The flood in the northern state of Uttarakhand in India left at least 14 people dead and 140 missing, sweeping away workers at the hydropower sites early on Sunday. Locals reported that a wall of dust, rock, and water roared down the river valley in what some described as looking like a scene from a movie.
I witnessed something that looked like a scene from a Bollywood film. I have never seen anything like what I saw there. About 50 to 100 people were running for their lives, but could not be saved, and were engulfed by the river.
Many of the missing are thought to be workers at the dams that were destroyed by the breaking of the glacier. Authorities expect the number could rise.
The number of the missing people could rise because the operators of the power plant are unable to give exact figures. Everyone is busy with the rescue operations.
At least 40 workers were reported to be trapped in two tunnels at the site. A dozen were rescued from one of the tunnels, while at least 30 others remain stranded inside the other. More than 2,000 people, including members of the military and the Air Force, were deployed in the search and rescue operation. Northern parts of India, where Sunday's disaster took place, are prone to flash floods and landslides. Record rainfall had caused a devastating flood 8 years ago, which killed 6,000 people. Such disasters have prompted calls by environmental groups for a review of power projects in the ecologically sensitive mountains. Choi Jung-yoon, Arirang News.
Tens of thousands of people in Myanmar took to the streets Sunday for the country's largest protest in more than a decade. They were rallying against the military coup and demanded the release of de facto civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Lee Seung-jae reports.
In the biggest protest since the 2007 Saffron Revolution, which led to democratic reforms in Myanmar, tens of thousands of people across the country took to the streets on Sunday to protest last week's coup and demand the release of its elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Sunday marked the second straight day of widespread protests. Crowds in Yangon, its biggest city, sported red shirts, red flags, as well as red balloons, the color of Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party.
Our lives were not good under the military dictatorship. Things got better in the past 5 years. But they claim that our votes were fraud, even though we won in a landslide. That's why we are here to protest.
The people of Myanmar showed unity as people from all different backgrounds, not just students and activists, joined the protests. Protesters were seen chanting anti-military slogans and sang famous revolutionary songs from the 1988 student uprising against the military regime. Pope Francis on Sunday expressed his concern, expressing his solidarity with the people in Myanmar and urged leaders to serve the common good.
In this very delicate moment, I want to again assure my spiritual closeness, my prayers and my solidarity with the people of Myanmar, and I pray that those in position of responsibility in the country show sincere willingness to serve the common good, promoting social justice and national stability for a harmonious and democratic coexistence.
Pope Francis added that Myanmar is a nation he has great affection for, especially after his visit in 2017. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
At this time 3 years ago, the South Korean town of Pyeongchang was hosting the 2018 Winter Olympics. To expand on its legacy, the only divided province in the world is hosting an annual global forum on peace. Our Kim Dami was there and filed us this report.
Peace will not come without sacrifice and devotion. This is what experts from around the world said on Sunday at the 2021 Pyeongchang Peace Forum.
Somebody has to act to achieve peace. I hope the international community stands up for the weak, and that this forum serves as an opportunity for more people to devote themselves to bringing about peace.
Taking place both online and in person, this year's forum underlined that it's crucial for countries like South Korea with strong capabilities in the bio and health sectors to help neighboring countries and vulnerable people. And even though times are tough, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun said peace can still be achieved like it was during the Olympics here 3 years ago.
Let us remember the miracle of peace brought about by the Pyeongchang Winter Games. I believe we can create peace on the peninsula on our own, just like we are battling this unprecedented pandemic with K-quarantine.
The president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, said this challenge should serve to reaffirm the committee's mission of building peace through sport.
The Olympic Winter Games Pyeongchang 2018 are highlighted explicitly as an example of how the Olympic truce can contribute to conflict prevention.
Under the slogan, Peace Here and Now, the forum's third edition comes as Pyeongchang prepares to host the Winter Youth Olympic Games in 2024. And to build peace, Pyeongchang is seeking to co-host the Games with the North Korean city of Wonsan. The legendary investor Jim Rogers commented at the forum that once the 30th parallel separating the two Koreas opens, the peninsula will be a hub in all areas, including tourism. For the next 2 days, guests from around the world will be discussing action plans for what will be South Korea's Peace New Deal. Ranging from the economy and public diplomacy to sports, they'll be exchanging ideas on the hosting of another successful Winter Olympics here in Gangwon-do Province. Kim Dami, Arirang News, Pyeongchang.
The city of Seoul has announced ways it's going to help people who've taken an economic hit from the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the city is going to offer small business owners emergency loans worth between $18,000 to $90,000. These will be for businesses like bars and gyms that had to close. People who've been on unpaid leave will get 3 monthly payments worth more than $1,300. Third, around $900 each will be given to 1,500 businesses in the tourism and art industries. There'll also be a discount of 10% on Seoul City gift cards. Finally, the city will create more than 6,000 public service jobs in areas like disinfection to help jobless people and seniors. Exports of South Korea's traditional dish, kimchi, hit an all-time high in 2020 amid growing worldwide demand for healthier food in the pandemic era. According to data from the Korea Customs Service, outbound shipments of kimchi reached $145 million last year, up 37.6% from the year before. Kimchi was delivered to some 80 different export destinations, with Japan being the biggest buyer, followed by the United States and Hong Kong. The Korean dish was also exported to countries in the Middle East and islands of the Pacific.
Good morning. It was a freezing Monday morning to start the week. There has been a big drop in readings overnight. It felt like nearly minus 10 degrees Celsius here in the capital, and cold wave alerts were issued in the northern areas. Well, cold air stays through tomorrow morning, so keep warm. It's going to remain chilly all day, with readings hovering way below the norms. Afternoon temperatures will be in the low to mid single digits across the country. So Daegu and Gyeongju will only make it to 4 degrees Celsius this afternoon under sunny skies and decent air quality nationwide. Meanwhile, Ulleungdo and Dokdo will see heavy snow through tonight, with up to 15 centimeters of snowfall in store, with heavy snow warning being in place there, while many regions in the east remain under dry weather advisories. Well, the Seollal holiday starts this Thursday, and there should not be any dramatic weather changes for the long holiday weekend. The weather looks calm and sunny, but dust levels could rise at times. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Lately, COVID-19 has been spreading through contact with family and friends. Preemptive testing is vital to prevent mass outbreaks.